Okay, we have just finished the channel boundary condition and now we're going to do a test run. So the test run is used to find and fix channel errors. So you can probably skip this step because the data that I'm going to give you should not have any errors. Because I've worked really hard to get all the errors out of it so that the class goes quickly. So you can skip step 12 if you're in the live class, but I definitely want to show you this video so that if you come back when you have your own channel and you're doing your own project, you see how to fix these errors. All right, so common errors with channel modeling. The banks are too close together. The boundary cross sections, invert elevations don't allow for normal depth flow from either upstream across a boundary or from downstream across a boundary, or a bank element is inside a channel. Now I've set up these three conditions in our project because they're the most common issues with channel modeling. And so I'm going to show you how to find them and fix them. So to do a test run, it's very simple. You will turn the main channel on. You need to have an inflow into the channel, and you want to turn the rainfall off. We don't want to do any rainfall on a channel test run because we want just the water in the channel. And then you'll export it into your, in this case we'll be using channel interpolation test folder. If you don't have that, just make it. And then we don't have rainfall, so you can uncheck that. And then once it's exported, you can just click File, or I'm sorry, it's not File, Run Flow2D. It's just the Run menu and Run Flow2D. And then hopefully we see this error right here. So let's go ahead and do that. So what we'll do is first we will do our run, set up our test run. So we come here and we make sure that our main channel is on and our rainfall is off. And then down at the bottom you can click Save. Obviously I've already done that, so I'll just click Cancel. Then here is the export button. Now this is going to go into Coastal Training, Project Export Folder, Channel Interpolation Test, and select that folder. You can uncheck the rainfall, and then that is now exporting. Okay, once it's complete, you click OK, and then we go here to the drop down button and Run Flow2D. And see here, we note you have a professional license, so your model is or your computer is activated. And then after it starts its checks, it gives you this notification that there are data errors. Sometimes with the errors, they happen one at a time. The model gets to the error, it can't proceed, so then you fix it and then you find out that you have another error down the road. That in this case, that may have happened. I'm not sure, so we'll just see. So the message, sorry, I closed that message a little. You know what? Let's just do it again. I didn't mean to close that message so quickly. I wanted you to read it with me so that you could kind of see what it says. Okay, so it says data input errors were encountered. Please review error.check file. And there's no storm drain, so we can ignore the rest of the message. So now we want to review the error.check file. Okay, so we go back to our project folder. And, you know, when you come in here, you're probably going to be like on the first one or whatever. I just want to let you know that there's not very many files that start with E in Flow2D. So if you're on one of these files, you just hit the E key and it takes you right to it. If you hit the C key, it takes you back to the top and you can start filtering through those. But if you hit the E key, it takes you right to it. So you don't have to try to find it. You don't have to search for it. You just hit the E key. Now this opens in Notepad or Notepad++. So let's go ahead and open it. I already had it open, so close that first one and leave the second one open, and these will be the errors that we've encountered. So a bit of information about this error.check file. If it's a warning, that means the model will run, but the Flow2D engine is probably going to make some kind of internal correction to the data and the model is going to run. So if it's a warning, you may need to know about it. You may want to fix it, but Flow2D kind of already fixed it for you. And then if you see, there's another one here, like sometimes it'll be a note and sometimes it'll be an error. And it looks like the following channel bank needs some adjustment due to channel width. Set the right bank either closer or farther away from the left bank. And then all the channel right bank elements in that group should be reassigned. Okay, so this is just telling us some information about some nodes that are too close together, some bank elements that are too close together. I've actually intentionally done this so that we can see how this works. And sometimes the error is the remaining floodplain surface needs to be larger, and sometimes the error is that the top width of the channel is wider than the space between the left and right bank. So it could be either one. But it's the same fix for either one. You just spread the channel apart. And we'll show you how to do that once we get back into QGIS. Okay, so here is another error. See here, this is an error and this is a note. So on the error, this says the following channel inflow node have an adverse negative bed slope or an absolutely flat bed slope next to a downstream channel element. Okay, so that means the first channel cross section has the same or lower slope than its downstream neighbor. So water isn't going to be moving downstream at the boundary, and that's going to result in problems. And then it gives you the grid element number, but we know there's only one inflow node in our channel. And then the final is a note. So this means that Flow2D did something. You need to be aware of it, but you probably don't need to make any adjustments. Flow2D made a correction for you. The following interior channel elevations were reset to the channel bed elevation for the upstream or downstream end of the channel. This one is at the downstream end of the channel because that's where we're terminating our channel on the floodplain. To exchange flow between the floodplain and the channel terminus, the floodplain grid element elevation upstream or downstream, in our case it's downstream, of the end of the channel should be adjusted. All right, so we may need to adjust the grid element elevation at the channel, at the upstream or downstream end of the channel, so that the water can leave out of the channel correctly. So we'll see that. We'll take a quick look at that. So let's go back to QGIS. Well, actually, I'm going to close this. Sometimes I don't close this. Sometimes I'll use these grid elements like this. I won't close this. I'll just copy one of these and I will leave this open, and then I use that as a guide to find those. So if I Control V and I do that, it takes me right to the ones I want to fix. And this is what I did. I just I moved this channel in and I pinched this together so that you could see that error message. So look, here's the deal. Remember what I said. Before you start working in the channel, always run the schematize button to clear out that interpolated data. So schematize, yes, now we can work on the system because we wiped out that interpolated data. So I go edit, and then I'm going to pick up the node tool and I'm going to grab this node, and all I have to do is delete it because all I did was I just moved it in like that. Sorry, pick that up. Moved it in like that. That's all I did. So I'm going to pick up that vertex and delete it and then hit schematize, and you'll see that it made that correction. Now, obviously, when you have that error, it might be like 2 or 3, or you might have to do that, but it's the same fix. You just pick this up and you kind of move it down a little, you know, or move it away from the right bank a little. Sometimes you'll do it on the right side, sometimes you'll do it on the left side, but it's always the same. You just move the left and right bank a little bit away from each other until that error goes away. And it's usually not like a bunch like you saw there. Usually it's just 1, 2, or 3 nodes that are having that problem. I also did another one over here on a right bank because I wanted you to see one more issue. Okay, now this time I'm going to turn these off because I want you to see what is happening here. Okay, so what is happening here is that we have a right bank assigned to the interior of a channel. But when Flow2D runs, these interior grid elements are removed from the simulation and they're replaced by the 1D channel. So by assigning a grid element to an interior node, that causes an error. So if you see something like this where one of these right banks is down here in the grid element, you got to fix it, right? So you turn your banks back on, click this right bank line, click edit, grab the vertex tool, and again, you know, I just moved that so that it was, you know, I forced it to do that. So if you click edit, enter, enter, And then I also don't really like these guys like making this L like that. There's nothing wrong with it. I just it's not a common thing that I like to see. So what I do is I pull this either up here. You know, this vertex is what's positioning that. So I'll either pull it up here or I'll pull it down here, down and put it in this grid element so that instead of going like here to here to here, it just goes here to here to here. And then see, and then you just sort that out. All right, so that is how you fix those bank alignment errors. And then we did have one more error up here, and that was the this first cross section. So I'm going to go ahead and just schema one more time just to make sure that I did it. And then we will turn the editor off for these. And so I'm going to, once I hit that pencil, it's going to trigger me to save those edits. So I click yes to save on both of those. And that is now, you know, saved into your channel. Okay, now let's take a look at this first cross section. Okay, this first cross section has a channel invert elevation of 1.98 feet above sea level. And if you go down to the next one, and if I use the center button, so here's one, and then here's the next one. This one has a, let me find that real quick, 1.71. So the reason why we get the error message is because this elevation is is slope, and the elevation between these two means that this 1.91 is going to kind of continue on through this little area right here, and there's not going to be like a general downstream slope. It's just going to be flat for a while. So we can fix this in two different ways. You know, you can either, I think in the reason we're getting this error now is because I deleted a cross section right here to kind of speed up the process so that this wouldn't take as long for you. But that caused that caused this error. So you can fix this in a couple different ways, but the easiest way, you could fix it in the data in here. You could fix it in this table editor right here, but that's kind of tedious. So what I do to fix this is I come to the channel data. Whoops, okay. Project data, channels, cross-section data. And what I do is I copy and paste this, and then I just called it mod. So I copied and pasted this into another cross-section, called it mod, and then I modified it by replacing, look, this is a tab. See, that's a tab and that's a number. So I took the 1.98, I copied this, right? That was 1.98. And then I click Control H, or I don't click it, but I key Control H because that's the replace. And this was 1.98. And then I copied that copy and pasted into here, and of course put this to 2.20. And then I did a replace all on that, and that's how I modified this cross section. So if you see, this is the original cross section where you see that it has the 1.98, and then I just did this replace all, but I did it on the modified cross section. And if you have that tab in there, then you don't accidentally change one of the 1.98s, on these other lines, if there happened to be one. So you don't have to go find that because you have that tab in there. So that's how you would quickly fix this. And then, of course, once you fix it, it's like the same thing you were doing before, right? Control A, C, W. We'll leave the error.check open for the time being. And then you come back here, and you put this in here and paste it, and now you see that that is above 2, and schematize, and now you are ready to just run through that quick interpolation process one more time. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to schematize it again. I hit the wrong button. That's this, and then you're in the right folder, so select folder, and then enter, 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 enter. That was the enter key like 4 times, and the interpolation is done. And now you don't have to export the project again because you already did that and you just updated the data in that same folder. But if you're like concerned that you did something wrong or whatever, you can just export the project again. And that goes coastal training, project export, channel interpolation, select folder. You can either select it from here or you can select it from inside it. Undo rainfall, enter to say OK, enter to say OK, and then back here to the run test, run Flow2D. And now what this is going to do is it's going to repeat the tests, and if you fixed all the errors, you should start to see the simulation run. See? And now you can leave the simulation running for like 4 or 5 hours. Just leave it alone, let some of that water get through the channel, and then you can stop it and test it. Another thing I'll do on my channels is I will test my channels with like a bank full steady state discharge. So that is basically the end of the video for test run.